Hello everyone and welcome to another really awesome game from round 1 of this year's FIDE Grand Swiss. Etienne Bacrot versus Gukesh Domaraju. Gukesh is the world classical champion, so he doesn't really need to qualify for the candidates tournament, but you always should challenge yourself and play against the very best in the world, and this is the top event that will be played over the next couple of days, so definitely it would go a long way if Gukesh actually wins the tournament. Even though he can't qualify, he can win it and then say, okay, number 2 and number 3, you can go to the candidates tournament and you will face me if you win the candidates tournament. And he plays against Etienne Bacrot, who is incredibly strong, and okay, maybe he's not in his peak right now, but he can still play some incredible chess. And he even took a photo, or rather a selfie, with Magnus Carlsen during the Grenke Chess Classic. If you remember, we covered the game. And yeah, I think that's really awesome. As strong as he is, why wouldn't you have a nice selfie with Magnus Carlsen? I remember, of course I remember, but every year all of the top players come here in Croatia, where I live in Zagreb, and I always come to the Grand Chess Tour and then I ask them to sign my board. And last time I asked Nepo, okay, Nepo, can you sign my board? And he was like, yeah, how many do you need? I already signed like a couple of them. I said like, all of them. Of course, and he signed it, and then I just collected them, and I have them. So yeah, makes me happy. So why wouldn't I? And I imagine made him happy to have this selfie. But here he faces a world champion, and Gukesh has yet to earn his selfie. So let's see the game. Etienne with white opens with pawn to e4. We have pawn to c6. Gukesh goes for the Caro-Kann defense. Pawn to d4, we have pawn to d5 and pawn to e5. The advanced variation against the Caro-Kann. We have bishop to f5 and now knight to f3. Now, I've been saying in pretty much every video, I've been using a lot of Lotus chess, and I've been brushing up on a lot of Caro-Kann with white, especially in the advanced variation. And I actually thought that Tal variation h4 is the top move here. And it offers a really, really interesting play, because if black doesn't go for the immediate h5, let's say black goes pawn to h6, which is also very much playable, it's very easy for black to make a mistake here. You can just go, let's say, pawn g4, bishop h7, and d6, and if black is not careful, just falls apart completely. For example, captures, and after bishop to d3, pretty much everyone just captures instantly. You can check on any database, and after captures, the black is lost here. Often they'll go just knight f6, threaten your g4 pawn, but you'll just ignore that. You'll play knight f3. If the pawn is captured, you're just going to give a check and pick up the knight, and once this knight comes to e5, controls d7, f7, the game is over. So you can win a lot of cool games like that. So yeah, after bishop to f5, knight to f3, which is actually the main line, and pawn to e6. Okay, with bishop to e2 and knight to e7, Etienne feels that against the world champion, we should stick to the main line. Castles kingside, pawn to h6, and knight b to d2. We have knight to d7 and knight to b3. We have pawn to g5, Gukesh playing pretty much instantly, Etienne burning a little bit of time, but nothing too serious. We have pawn to a4, bishop to g7, and now almost everyone plays pawn to a5 here. Etienne goes rook to e1, and he does spend some 7 minutes here, so it's hard to say whether he, is out of book here, or he just doesn't want to play the main line, and then he thought, let's try rook e1. So anything is possible. It is now, as of move 10, that we have a completely new game. We have castles kingside, pawn to h3, and okay, pawn to b6. Gukesh now ready to go rook c8 and strike against the white center with pawn to c5. Bishop to e3, Etienne prepares for that, rook to c8 and pawn to a5. Gukesh does strike, pawn to c5, we have bishop to a6, challenging the rook to a less favorable square, but c7 will do just fine. We have captures, and now pawn to c3, strengthening the center. And okay, you can't really claim that white achieved all that much. Etienne is lower on time, and not much to show for. But okay, it's still early, a lot can happen. We have c captures on d4, knight b captures on d4, and bishop to e4 by Gukesh. We have knight to d2, challenging the bishop, and he brings the bishop back. Bishop to g6, and now knight to b5, going after Gukesh's rook. On c7, we have rook to c6, and here we reach an interesting moment in the game. Etienne goes back, knight d4, attacking Gukesh's rook, and Gukesh goes rook to c5, and now again we have a knight 4 to f3, opening up a discovery again, where Gukesh is forced with a somewhat unpleasant well, maybe unpleasant for someone, I imagine not for him, is that if you go back, white could just force a perpetual here. Or not force it, but rather, just continue repeating moves. And, if you're not satisfied with your position, you could just go back and forth between rook c6 and rook c5. But Gukesh says, nope, we're going to fight rook to a5. And the idea is that if he trades, then, okay, pawn captures, and he does have an a pawn versus the b and c pawn. So it would be, a very, very interesting game. Etienne declines that, goes bishop to d4, and now Gukesh goes queen to c7. Develops the queen, prepares to bring the other rook into the game. Queen to e2. Now, if a rook trade happens, you can get this rook over to a1, and Gukesh does trade here. Rook captures. We have rook captures and rook to a8, now trying to do some damage along that a file as the rook on a1 is undefended. So Etienne just brings it back. Rook to e1. We have knight c5 and bishop to b5. Rook to a2 by Gukesh. And okay, all of a sudden, Gukesh does have some pressure on the position. We have knight to f1, getting the knight to g3, bishop to e4, putting pressure on the knight and in general on this diagonal. Knight g3 attacking the bishop, and now knight to g6, inviting knight captures on e4, but that would allow this knight to, or rather you could even play d captures on e4, and this is completely great for black. If you go back, knight f4, and Gukesh's position is incredible. So after knight g6, we have knight to h5, sort of stopping knight f4 and attacking the bishop on g7. Gukesh brings it back, bishop to h8, and now the question is what to play here with white. If you ask the engine to crunch the numbers for some a long time at ply, let's say 30, the engine says something like king to h1. Saying that king h1, king g1, king h1, king g1, and you just do nothing, wait for black to make a move. But it's hard to say what made Etienne, go for this. Whether he just felt that Gukesh's position was so strong that he couldn't afford a passive move, or he felt, okay, I'm white against the world champion, why not take my chances? We will never know, or maybe we will if he gives an interview. But he played knight to d2. And offered the b2 pawn for some very interesting, chess. Rook captures on b2, Gukesh captures it, and rook to a1. And okay, if the rook comes to a8, you have the bishop here, you have the knight here, could be interesting. So what can you play? Gukesh plays queen to c8. He stops the rook from coming to a8, and now we have pawn to c4. And interestingly, this position is fairly complicated, but it's also lost for white if Gukesh finds the only move that wins for him. So you will also have that chance following the steps of the great Gukesh while I give you a couple of seconds. Yes, of course. Congratulations on everyone who found it. Rook captures on d2. You are an amazing spotter of tactics, and now there is really nothing for white to do here. You've lost material, or rather you've gained material. Queen captures on d2, but now knight b3, and you will lose some material back. Queen e3, but now not knight captures on a1. Gukesh goes for knight captures on d4. He prefers to keep it active and have a couple of extra pawns for the exchange. We have queen captures on d4, and now bishop captures on e5. Beautifully played by Gukesh. The queen is hanging, queen to d1, and now even d captures on c4. And if you count the material now, yes, Etienne is up an exchange, but he's also down 3 pawns. So that is a bit too much, and there is nothing stopping this pawn from marching forward. We have rook to a4 going after the pawn. Bishop d5, there's no rush. You can advance the pawn later. Queen e2, now with a triple attack on the c4 pawn. Pawn to c3. We have bishop to d3, and now queen to c7. Bishop back to c2, stopping the pawn from advancing, but now bishop h2 check, king f1, and king f8, just getting the king to a bit of a safer square. Sorry, not king to f8, bishop to e5. I have no idea why I thought king to f8 was played, but no, bishop to e5 first, getting another defender here, and now you will start improving your position. We have king to g1, king to f8, and queen to d3. With, a bit of a better square for the white queen, but nothing really that you have to worry about here. Gukesh just goes knight to h4, and that's all there is to it. Pawn to f3 was played. The g2 pawn is hanging. You have to do something about that. Pawn to f3, queen to c5 with check. We have king to f1, and now just knight to f5. And he was in this position on move 45 that Etienne Bacrot resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. So whatever you try, you can give a few checks, but I mean, let's say you give a check, king e7, you give a check, bishop to c7, no more checks, and now bishop to c4 is deadly. No, I mean, whatever you play, you're just going to get crushed here. So it would be a slow and painful death for Etienne, and well, with so little time on the clock, he doesn't feel like, or no, rather, no, they reach time control, so he does have time on the clock. He just, you know, agrees that his position is disgusting, and he will not be looking at this any longer. So yeah, great start for the world classical champion. Gukesh Domarajo takes a win with the black pieces in round 1 and is on his way of qualifying for the candidates tournament. That, of course, is a joke. He doesn't need to, but yeah, it would be pretty cool if he won first place and then just said, okay, number 2 and number 3, you're welcome to join the candidates and then face me, you know, if you can win. So yeah, brilliant stuff by Gukesh, and like I said, I don't know if Etienne played this for a draw with white or what. You know, in some moves it felt like he was trying to get more, especially in that move where he sacrificed the b pawn, but he was very low on time, so I imagine it was just a spur of the moment thing. But okay, who knows? Great game by both of them. Gukesh was much better, obviously. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you still haven't, click the link in the description below. Join the tournament today. I'm going to be live streaming. It starts in about an hour, so you have still time to join. And if you still haven't, download Lotus Chess. Try it out. It's amazing. Learn how to play fighting chess like the line I've shown in the beginning of the video, and, you know, crush your opponents easily. So I hope you enjoyed it. I would like to thank Robert Kiefer, Edmund Freeman, Stephen Wentworth, Knight Master Bishop, and Christian Fisher for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions, but mostly covering the FIDE Grand Swiss until it finishes. So thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.